Hey everybody, it's John Schwabish from PolicyViz. I'm going to remake a really great table from the Washington Post in Excel. So I'm going to show you how to do this. Now, it seems like a kind of fairly simple table. It's the one here on the left. This is the one that showed up in the Washington Post. I'll put the link to the full story in the notes to this video. But this is a story about states across the US restricting abortion rights. And so you can see here, this particular table, I just picked one of the many out, has, about 6 or 7 different states. It's got the party control for each part of state government. So House, Senate, Governor with the little, the square pink boxes, and then the R on top of it, Republican. And then it's got sort of the status of the legislation, and it's got this little kind of dot plot thing going on the right. And I thought, well, maybe I can make this in Excel. And you can see over here on the right, I did actually make this in Excel. And it basically just requires some careful thinking about layering scatter plots together. And once you layer the scatter plots together, you can really make this. It's really not that hard. It's really kind of just a diagram built in Excel. And would you ever use this in practice? I don't know, maybe. I mean, it might just be easier just to draw the thing out. But if I want to make a bunch of these, or it's an approach that I want to use for something else, I'm going to show you how to make it. And so hopefully this will be useful to you. So let's head over to the worksheet. You can see I've got a whole bunch of data going on here. And basically when I look at this, and I'm just going to make it a little bigger so you can see it. The way I'm thinking about this is I essentially have columns, more or less columns. So I have a column for the state names, column for the House, column for the Senate, column for the governor, a column right in the middle, the sort of space here, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more columns for each of these dots. And so if I put those together, think about those along the horizontal axis, I've got, 9 or 10 different columns. And I'm going to use scatter plots to push all these together. So I basically have 9 points or so, you'll see a few more, 9 points along the horizontal dimension, and then 7 rows going up from South Carolina will be on the first row to Wyoming on the top row. And then I'm just going to use your standard Excel chart title to add this title here. But everything else is going to be done with data. I'm not going to do anything with text boxes on this one, as you probably know from seeing lots of videos on this site. So I have it all set up. Let me explain what I've got here. So let's start in here. This is the main part. This is where we're going to set up this piece of the graph. So I have 5 observations for each state, and I've got the orange series is going to be the dots that are obviously orange, right? So each state is going to have the first position is going to be orange, right? So you can see here I've labeled it X. So this is going to be the 4th point of X, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's going to be X. And then the Y value is just going to go 1 for South Carolina, 2 for Ohio, 3 for Nebraska, and so on and so forth. Then the gray series is going to be, obviously, the gray dots. And you can see for each of these states, except for Wyoming, that has no gray dots, I'm just layering on 5, 6, 7, 8, and then that same Y position. So you can see how this piece is going to come together, okay? So that's the right part of the graph. All right, what about these boxes here for House, Senate, and Governor? Well, I've got those all set up. The X dimension is going to be 1, 2, 3, right? And then the same thing with the rows all the way up. And you can see I've actually laid out the labels here that are exactly show up the way they are in the chart. Then I'm going to set up the state labels. You can see right here, I've got them set up. I'll show you why it's -1 in just a moment. And then I'm going to use some additional scatter plot points to do the lines to connect everything. And then finally, I have a whole set over here for all the text labels. And I literally just typed these out and then figured out where I want to position them. Because basically, if you think about this, I have a grid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 all the way from left to right, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 from bottom to top, okay? So now you sort of see this all laid out. Let me show you how to do it. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select my orange series. I'm going to start here. I'm just going to insert, and I'm going to insert a scatter plot. And I'll make this bigger so you can see it. And you can see that that's going to sort of mirror, I'm going to move this over so you can see it. That's going to mirror these orange dots right here in this space. I'm going to select again. I'm going to label that correctly. I want that to be the orange series. And I'm going to add a new series. This will be the gray series. And for the X values, I'm just going to grab all these. And I'm going to grab all of these. And boom and boom. And you can see I've got the gray dots. Those are going to be correspond over here to the gray dots. Okay, so we're going to build this out first, and then we'll finish it up. All right. What about the House, Senate, Governor dots? So I'm going to select data. Now what I need to do here is I'm going to add 3 separate series. Okay, so I'm going to add one for the House. So that's the X position. So it's going to be in the first column there. Whoops, sorry, that's not right. I want that to be the label House. The X values are going to be right here in column G. And then for the Y values, I want those to be what I call the height variables here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to use that 3 times. So I'm just going to copy that. And now I repeat for the Senate. The X values are number 2. And it gives me a little error there. No problem. Just type in that equal sign, and let's do the same thing for the governor's race or governor's part of the state, and then copy in or paste in again the Y dimension. And you can see here I've got each of those 3 situations all set up, those 3 placeholders here. What about the labels for the states? Okay, let's select data. We're going to add a new series for the state labels. It's already set up there. So again, as you can see, I like to label everything in my chart. I've said this in all the videos that I've done on this channel. I like to label everything. You're going to notice here, I'm going to extend this just a little bit for my state label, the word state. Put that all the way down here. The reason I'm doing that here rather than over here with my text labels is because I want this word state to be lined up nicely with the names of these states. So you can see I've got a little bit of a weird thing going on here, but we'll come back to it, don't worry. Notice we've gone over -1. Don't worry, it's all going to become clear in a second. Just bear with me. All right, what about the text labels? Let's add those. So this is going to be all of our text labels. I'm going to add the X dimension. And here I just did these manually. Like I literally just wrote these in. I figured out where I want to position everything, what number I need for X and Y, and there we have that. So we're pretty close here. Let's add some styles to this, and then I'll show you how I'm going to do the lines. Okay, so first off, let's add the labels for the states. So I'm going to select my state label series. I'm going to say add data labels, select those, right click again, say format data labels. And I'm going to use my value from cells option to just select column A here, A3 to A10. You see that I added the word state there so that I could have it nicely aligned right at the top. I'll turn the Y values off, and I'm going to leave that right there. So the labels are now to the right of the dot. So the labels are left aligned, right? They're aligned to the left. If I put these to the left, the words are right aligned. Well, the post did it where they're left aligned, so I need to put it to the left of the dot, which is why I needed to have this -1, because I needed to have some space between the name of the state and the first dot for the House ownership of or the party in each of these states. And you can see South Carolina is going to overlap there, right? If I change this to a 0 and just copy this down so you can see it, you can see it's a little too tight there. I'm going to make these words bigger, so I don't really want that. So I'm just going to make it -1, which will work just fine for me. All right, so that's going to be the first part of this. Now, what about these labels? I'm going to use the same thing. I'm going to add the data labels, right click on them to format the data labels, and I'm going to do value from cells. And here I can use party control down to introduced. Again, manually added those. Again, I have to turn off the Y value. I'm going to turn off the leader lines because I might have to do a little bit of tweaking, and I don't want those there. And here I'm going to center these labels. They look centered. You can see party control is centered over these 3. House is centered over this column. Senate is centered, and so I want that. So I'm going to keep those centered just like that. Okay. So you can sort of see this. Hopefully you can see this taking place. I'll make the font just a little bit bigger so you can sort of see this even better. All right, let's work on the first 3 columns here, the party control columns. Well, I'm going to do this. I thought about different ways to do this. And I think the easiest way to do this is to just use a marker that is a square. And if I make this marker a square, I can just make it bigger. I'm just clicking here. And let's try I don't know, let's try 20. I'll just make it a round number, 20. That looks fine. And then I can color it, and I have that pink already blocked in there, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to make that no line, and so 20 looks like it's going to work. So let's just repeat that, and here I can just literally type it. Solid fill, notice Excel, hold on to the color. I need to make sure I change this to a square, and I need to turn off the border. So again, last one for the governor. I go to built-in, change this to a square, type in number 20, change the fill, it holds onto that pink so I don't have to reselect, and then say no line. And so I've got my pink squares there. Let's add the labels. Well, same thing we did before. Add data labels, select the data labels, right click, format, use value from cells, and because I've typed them in here, I can just select them and it adds that R, and I'm going to turn that Y off and I'm going to center them. And you can see they're sitting right there where I want them. And if I want them to be, you can see that the post one is a little gray, so why don't we make that a little lighter gray here so it looks more gray. There we go, something like that. All right, so now I just have to replicate that. So I need to add, select, format value from cells, select the middle one, it's all typed in, check, check, change the color. Our last one, add the data labels, select the data labels, right click on the data labels, value from cells, select. You can see it's a lot of clicking, but again, as I say over and over again, when I'm working in Excel, it's easier to do it up front because if I remake this graph later on, I don't have to really change anything. I just update the data and this is good to go. All right, what about the dots? So I thought about this a lot. My first thought was to make this all in a bubble chart and then size the dots differently. The problem is you can't combine chart types when you make a bubble chart. You're sort of stuck in a bubble chart. So you can't change the marker to be a square in a bubble chart. So that's why I ended up here with this particular chart type. So what I'm going to do for the gray dots is I'm going to make them a little bit bigger, not too much bigger. I don't know, let's see, maybe, yeah, that's probably even too big. I'm going to make them an 8. And then I'm going to fill them in. I'm going to make them gray. I'll use this middle gray color here, and I'll turn the line off so I don't really have it. So you can see I've got those gray dots. Maybe that's a little small, so make it a 10. For the orange dots, I'll do the same thing. Now, they look to be about the same size, so I'll leave those as a 10, and I'll use whatever the built-in Excel orange is here. I'm not gonna play around with that too much. Now you'll notice, of course, there are these points here that are a little bit bigger. So again, I could add a whole other scatter plot series to make those, but for this one, I mean, I think here I'm just gonna do this manually. I'm just gonna select each one, and I'm gonna make it I think double. Let's see, 20. 20 is probably a little too big, so maybe like 16. I'll make it 16, and then I'll fill in. I'll just use this dark orange color. So now what's nice here is that I can select the next dot and I stay in the same menu. So I can just type in 16 and I can just change that circle, and I have to press return here so I can get that 16. Again, I could have added an entirely different series on top of my existing series so I don't have to do this, but it's okay. I mean, it's again, it's going to be a little bit harder if I really have to replicate this and I have maybe more complex data. So if I had like bubbles all over the place that were of different sizes, I probably would sort of do this as separate series. But in this case, I think it's fine to just sort of do it by hand. So let me just do one more here, 16, and change that to a solid fill. So we're getting there. We're really getting close here on this one. So what we still need to do is add lines that are connect these dots. But what I want to show you first is how I'm just going to use the grid lines and the dimensions of the axes to have my horizontal grid lines. So first thing, there are no vertical grid lines in this chart at all. So I'm going to delete those, okay? There's also no horizontal axis. I'm going to hold on to that for now just to make sure that things are correct. And then for the vertical axis, I want to set this up so that I have lines just between the states. So I'm going to change my axes here. Just start at 0.5. See how the lines are now in between? They're sort of in between my dots. I just arranged the axes to start at 0.5. And this is okay. I mean, this is pretty much done, but you'll notice there's no line at the top here above these labels. So I'm going to cheat just a little bit. I'm going to change this to 8.49. If I do that, I get no grid line up there. And so I'm going to delete the vertical axis now, labels, those are gone. And I'm going to change the horizontal axis. It definitely doesn't need to start at -2. I'm going to start it at -1. And I can leave it at 9 if I want to have a little space at the end. And then I'll hide these markers here. So I'll do a little hiding. So we'll hide these. And I'm also going to hide the text label series. So I'll select it over here and I'll say none. And you can see that I'm getting really close now. So the other thing I need to do is add those horizontal lines, those connecting lines. Now, there's a number of ways to do this. And my first inkling was, okay, just select, for the gray ones, just select the gray dots and add an error bar. Okay, so I'm gonna go over here and select error bars, and I'll add just a percentage as a placeholder, and I'll just do that, and I'll select these and make a minus. I just want to go to the left and no cap. And now if I make the value a 1, they'll extend 1 unit. And that seems to work here because I don't have a gray series here. So that way actually works well. And I can change the color here, obviously to make it a gray and make it maybe 2 points instead of 1.75 points. For the orange series, problem with the orange series is that I've got these dots over here on the left. So if I add an error bar here, like this, and delete the vertical and just add the horizontal, you're going to notice that if I did this same as a 1, I get this line right here on the left, and I don't want that. So that's a little bit of a problem. So for the orange series, what I actually need to do is add an entirely new series. So I can add that orange error bar. So I'm going to select the data, and I'm going to add one more series, the orange error bar series. And so my X values are 8 and 5. So 8 to correspond here and 5 to correspond here, and 7 and 6 right there. And I can hit that, okay, okay. Now for that series, you can kind of see there's a little dot here, kind of hard to see, but I'll make it like a different color. So maybe that'll help when you're watching this little video. You can see there is a little black dot there. Even that's hard to see. Trust me, it's there. There's a little black dot there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add error bars to those little black dots, and you can see there's added. And I'm going to select delete the vertical, don't need it. For the horizontal, I'm going to make it minus, no cap, and here I'll use a custom value, and I'll just put in this 4 and 1, and that should move that over to the left. It looks like I need to do something else because that is not going far enough. I think I need to do this maybe, or I have the wrong number in there. Oh, there we go. 4 units. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what I needed. I needed to have that negative going all the way across. And so here I'm going to change the color to orange, make it the same thickness. I think was 2. I'll do that, and I'll grab that new series that I have and set that to missing, or to none, I should say. And those are gone as well. Now you see I have this error bar thing here. I didn't actually need it, but you can see if I did need to use it, I have that option. And then just like a couple more changes, I can change the color on the text to basically be a little gray to sort of match what the post had. I'm going to delete my horizontal axis, and I'm going to maybe make these labels a little bit bigger, again, to match what the post has. Make them 15. I'm going to make them black. Those darker. Maybe lighten this one. So, like again, I can select this one separately if I want to make these changes, differently. And then finally, I'm just going to use the built-in chart option to put this above the chart, and I'm going to say states considering a trigger ban. I'll highlight that, make it black, make it bigger, make it bold, and I'll just manually sort of move this over. Of course, I could use another scatter plot, but it's fine, I think, the way it is. And so there you go. You can see that I've built this chart in Excel just with using different scatter plot points, scatter plot graphs in a single chart. No drawn lines, no text boxes, none of that. I've just created it this way. And so if I wanted to go back in and make some changes, I could do that. If I wanted to update this data for something else or for different types of states, I could do that. It's all packaged together here in a single chart. So I hope this was useful. I hope you'll be able to use this. I'll put a link to the original Washington Post site in the show notes. I'll put a link to this file so you can grab it from my website at policyviz.com. If you have questions, comments, ideas on maybe how to do this a little bit more efficiently, I can already think of some ways that maybe I'd collapse some of these separate series down into single series. Maybe, maybe not. Let me know. Let me know in the chat window. Let me know what else you'd like to see. in visualizing data in Excel and in other tools. So thanks so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to this channel so you can learn more about visualizing data, and check out policyviz.com to learn more.